Good day, YouTube. I pray that this video finds you all well. Welcome to Lesson 2 of Hebrew for English speakers. Today we're going to get into the alphabet. The previous lesson was kind of an introduction to the alphabet, and now we're going to look at the alphabet itself. I wanted to show both the biblical and the modern pronunciations of Hebrew. Oftentimes I find videos where people show one or the other. I wanted to put both of them in front of you so you can compare and kind of pick and choose which one you like more. Me personally, I like the biblical pronunciation more. It makes Hebrew sound more like a Semitic language like Syriac or Arabic. For someone who is wanting to learn modern Hebrew, it is also important to know the sounds the letters make today. So anyways, without further ado, let's get into it. So the first letter is named Aleph. There's a name of a letter, and then there's a sound of a letter. Like in English, we have a letter is named A, and A makes a sound like A or E, depending on where it's placed. So the letter's name is Aleph. And the sound in biblical Hebrew, it's kind of a difficult sound to make for a lot of English speakers. If you know Arabic, it's not too difficult for you. It's called a glottal stop. So if you say uh-oh, that small little, when you do the that is the sound, the original biblical sound of the Hebrew Aleph. So it's not just like a silent sound. It's not just like an A. It's actually this very, very subtle sound. However, in modern Hebrew, they have lost that sound. As languages change over time, they often become more simple and lose these sounds which are difficult to make. And so modern Hebrew speakers, if they probably do not even know that the biblical Hebrew used to make the glottal stop sound. And instead, it'll just be silent. And then I also have the gematria here for you guys. The gematria is essentially the letters' numerical value. So like if you know Roman numerals, the Roman numeral I is 1, or the Roman numeral, say that 10 times fast, the Roman numeral V would be 5, right? So Hebrew also, this is also in ancient sources, letters also have numerical values, which are used often. It's not just for like biblical like exegesis and mystical stuff. It's even used in modern context. So it's good to know the gematria, or the letter value of the letters. And then here I have the final form. If you saw the previous video, English has capital and lowercase. Hebrew doesn't have that. Hebrew essentially just has one form for all 22 letters, except for 5 of them. 5 of them have a special form, only when they appear at the end of the word. So easier than English. Okay, the next letter, Beit. It's pretty simple, just like the letter B. It's the sound B, like in the word ban. Its gematria is 2. Now, with this little dot, as you can see, this little dot called a dagesh, it makes a B sound. And then without the dot, as you can see here, it has no dot, it makes a V sound, and it's often called Veit, or Ashkenazim will say Vase. But base, vase, beit, veit, same thing. And it just makes if it has the dot, it makes the B sound. Without the dot, it makes the V sound. Now, oftentimes, if you read like the newspaper or in a lot of things like native Hebrew speakers, they're not going to write the little dots, and so you learn according to context. We'll go over that later. But if you ever see a text with no dots, it doesn't mean there's no B sound. It just means that text doesn't have any dots. If you're reading something like the Bible or more religious text, it's always going to have dots, so it'll be easier in that sense. So yeah, we have Beit or Veit, and also whether it has a dot or not, it's going to have the same gematria, the same number form, with or without the dot. So both Beit and Veit are both 2. So this is B, like in ban, and this is V, like in van. Pretty simple. Now we have Gimel. Gimel makes the G sound like gap, like, the store gap, or like a gap, like a barrier, or a opening between two things, and has the gematria 3. Now, something interesting, you don't have to know this, I just think it's fun, is that a lot of Taimani Jews, not all of them, but a lot of Yemenite Jews, they'll say J for this letter, for when the Gimel has a dot in it. This is G, but some of them might say J. So if you ever meet a Taimani, again, some of them do not do this, but some of them do. They make it a J sound, like the Arabic J. And it's actually interesting historically. Why did it become that way? Is that the original sound, or perhaps were they influenced by Arabic? I hold the view that they were probably influenced by Arabic, and that originally biblical Hebrew was G, and they made it a J. So, but anyways, this is a G, this is a G, both in modern, both in biblical and in modern. Now, this one is, I think, probably the most difficult for English speakers. Let's do the modern first. So the modern gimel without the dot, here you see, dot, no dot. The modern gimel without the dot is the same as the gimel with the dot. It's just a g. So, you go to Israel, most Hebrew speakers, they're going to pronounce all of these. They're going to pronounce both of these exactly the same. Both of them is g. So don't worry about that. But if you're weird and you like interesting things, and if you like linguistics, the biblical gimel, when it didn't have the dot, would be like, so if you say gargle, but pronounce the first G, the first G, pronounce it in the back of your throat. So it's like Ra. And Arabic has the sound too, like Rain. So that's why, for example, Gaza is originally called Gaza with the Rain in the back. So interesting little note there. If you can do it, it's cool. But if you speak like that on the street, people are going to be like, what are you doing? Because a lot of, a lot of Israelis, a lot of modern Hebrew speakers do not know that in biblical Hebrew it would make the Ra sound. Cool little fact if you want to know. And its gematria is 3. So next, Dalet, which is like a duh. Now if it has a little dot, it's just like a duh, like in the sound dad. Same thing in English, duh. Very easy. Now if it doesn't have a dot, again, in modern Hebrew, it's going to be exactly the same as with the dot. Most modern Hebrew speakers do the exact same thing. They just do duh. Now, in biblical Hebrew, it would actually be the. Now, if you know the prayer that Jews have to say twice a day, the Shema Israel, now there's actually a halacha, there's a law that the final duh, when we say ehad, you have to elongate the duh. Now, it's actually impossible to elongate a typical duh because it's what's called a plosive. It's a sound that doesn't, continue in any way. However, without the dot, this actually makes the sound the, like in the word the. It's also kind of interesting in English, the, even though it's a th, it doesn't make a th, right? It doesn't make a th like in the word thing or in math. It doesn't make the same th like in math. It makes a the sound when you say, the table. So that sound, the, when you put your tongue in between your teeth, this is the original, the biblical sound for the dhalid without the dot. But again, that's only for weird people such as myself. Usually everyone uses just the normal duh sound in modern Hebrew. But biblical Hebrew, it's the, and that's why the halacha, when you're saying the Shema, you have to elongate the the, because originally this was a the sound. So, little interesting fact for you there, and its gematria is 4. Now, next is hey. Hey, simple like in hat. Don't make it too raspy. It's like a kind of lighter hey. So not hat, but hat. So it's, or if it's at the end of the word, it could be silent, and we'll see examples of that. But yeah, pretty simple, ha or ha. Now the next one, vav or wow. Now in modern Hebrew, it's always va, like in the word vow. It's always a va sound. 100% modern Hebrew, always va. However, in biblical Hebrew, it was pronounced wa oftentimes. There's debates. Maybe sometimes it was pronounced a v, even in biblical Hebrew, but typically it was a wa sound. Like in Arabic, like there's the wow. So yeah, like in prayers, I'll say wa instead of v. But most people will use the v as in modern Hebrew. Biblical Hebrew, it was wa. Okay, next we have zayin. This is the same for both of them. Z, like in zebra, just a z, simple. Next we have het. Now in modern Hebrew, it's going to be like, the best example I can find is the composer Bach. So that raspy sound, like when you say Chanukah. So Bach, you kind of make a raspy throat, like a sound. Rachel, a lot of examples. In Hebrew they use this a lot. It's a ch. You have to, in the back of your throat, and then you make a kind of raspy sound. I'm always kind of worried I'm maybe damaging my throat when I do that sound because it's so intense. However, in biblical Hebrew, it would not be a ch, rather it would be a ha. Ha it sounds kind of like ha, but it's deeper back in your throat. So you kind of try to make a ha, and then you go back and back and back into your throat until you get to ha. But you don't go raspy like ha. You hear the difference? Ha, 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 ha. So Arabic has this distinction. Biblical Hebrew also had this distinction. But again, in modern Hebrew, no one says ha. Everyone just does the raspy ha every single time. So technically, like Hanukkah, I don't, when I'm in prayer and whatnot, I don't say Hanukkah, I say Hanukkah because it's het. It's not a chet. However, today most people unfortunately don't know the difference and they'll just say Hanukkah. Okay. Anyways, next one we have tet. Now, in modern Hebrew, this is just like a t, like in English, t, in the word top, and the word tan, and the word hat, just a t, right? However, in biblical Hebrew, just also like in Arabic, this is not a t. However, it's a ta. So ta, what you want to do is you want to put your tongue up closer to your upper gum, and you do a ta. You construct your throat and don't let too much air out, or ideally not even any air out. It's a ta. So it's a pretty significant difference between ta and t. Ta and t. However, in modern Hebrew, don't worry about this at all. It's just a t. Okay, next is yud. Yud is like how we have, it's actually a pretty good parallel like the y in English, which is a y. So yeah, just y. Next we have kaf with the dagesh, again with that little dot. It's a k, like in cat. And then we have without the dot, it's a ch. Now this is raspy. This is the raspy throat sound, both in biblical and in modern Hebrew. This is going to be the ch sound in both of them. Now also you might see here in kaf is the first one that's going to have a final form. So when kaf or chaf appears at the end of a word, it takes upon this new form. It's the exact same sound. It's just when it's at the end, it's written with this form. And if you're into gematria, the end letters, sometimes they have a different numerical value. Sometimes they'll have the same one. So sometimes kaf at the end will still be 20. Sometimes kaf at the end will be 500. So it has a slightly different numerical value. Next, lamed, super easy. La, just like in land, la. Mem, also easy. Ma. Mem is the next letter with a final form. So when it appears at the end, it's going to look like this. And its gematria is going to be 600 instead of 40 at the end. Next one, super easy, nun, which makes a n, like a nap. And it also has a final form, which I think looks really cool. It's like an elongated vav, and its gematria is 700. So simple, n. Next is samech, which is also very simple, makes a s sound, and its value is 60. This one is a little bit difficult. Oh, I should have actually erased that. In modern Hebrew, it is actually exactly like the aleph, so it's either silent or I should probably write silent is better. It is either silent or it is like just like like it doesn't have any of its own sound. However, in biblical Hebrew, it is pronounced in the back of the throat like the Arabic ayn. So you want to kind of say ah and then move it in the back of your throat while kind of constricting your throat, kind of like you're about to throw up even. Ayn. It's called the pharyngeal stop, I believe. So yeah, traditionally ayn. However, in modern Hebrew, it's just like aleph. Really is silent. It's depending on the vowel that it takes on. This one, actually, interestingly, even not a lot of, but a significant amount of modern Hebrew speakers, especially if they come from the Middle East, will actually pronounce this maybe a little bit, maybe not too much. So instead of saying like arba, which is 4, they'll say arba. And there's a little bit of remains of it even in modern Hebrew. However, it's I believe kind of dying down as Hebrew becomes more and more modernized, and they're not pronouncing these difficult sounds. So in modern Hebrew, don't worry about it. It's just like aleph. It's just like a. But in biblical Hebrew, it's like a ayin. So okay, next we have pay. Pay, easy. It's like p, like in pan. That's with the dagesh, with the dot. Without the dagesh, without the little dot in there, it becomes f, and it also has a final form f. There's no final form for p, only for f. So easy from p to f. Okay, next we have saudi. Now in biblical Hebrew, it's saw. So let's actually do modern first. Modern Hebrew, it's tsa, which I don't know. I love. Usually I like biblical Hebrew sounds more, but I love the sound tsa. It's the one modern Hebrew sound I like more. Tsa, like a bird, it makes a tsa 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 tsa, like in the word tsunami. But in biblical Hebrew, it'd be similar to the Arabic saw. So it's, if you say sun, but you want to put your tongue higher up and let less air out and constrict your throat, so you say saw, saw. But you would sound weird if you said that. So just say tsa, like in tsunami. It also has a final form. It's the last letter with a final form. It looks like that. I don't know. I think it's a very beautiful final form. It looks kind of like a tree. And its gematria is 900. Next, we have kuf. In biblical Hebrew, it's exactly like ka. I should bold this. It's exactly like ka, like the kaf. Just ka, like in cat. Very easy. However, in biblical Hebrew, it's further back in the throat. It becomes ka. So, like in Arabic, like the qaf, this is also like a qa. So you put it further back in your throat. But no one says that. So just, if you're speaking, say ka, like in cat. Next, we have resh. This is one sound that I actually can't really do. In modern Hebrew, it's just like in English, ra, ra. In biblical Hebrew, it would be vibrated a bit, like when the tongue flaps against the upper palate, like ra. I'm not really good at doing it. Apparently, like in Spanish, when you say perro, when you say dog, the tongue is supposed to kind of flap at the upper palate. I'm not good at doing that, so ask maybe someone that speaks Spanish how to do the ra. But in modern Hebrew, it's just like the English, like ra, like in rat. Next, we have sin, which is exactly like samech. When the dot's on the left side, it makes a s sound, just like in sun. And then when the dot is on the right side, it makes a sh sound, like in shin. So see that little dot? It goes sa to sh, sa to sh. Pretty simple, like how we have in English. Aval, I almost said it in Hebrew. But in English, sh is a digraph, so it takes two letters to make this one sound sh. However, in Hebrew, this one sound sh is represented by one letter. As we said in the previous lesson, Hebrew has no digraphs. So it's just one letter which represents the sh. Next, final letter, we have tav. If it has the dot in there, it's just pronounced like a t, like the modern tet, which isn't pronounced tet, but a t, just like in the word top. So it's just t. Now, this one is a little bit confusing. The thav or the sav, when it has no dot in it, traditionally it would be pronounced th. However, in modern Hebrew, no one says th, no one at all, unless you're weird like me, says th, they all say t, just like the one with the dot. It would just be t. However, Ashkenazim, like if you go to an Ashkenazi synagogue or if you have Ashkenazi friends and they learn in an Ashkenazi school, they actually will, they will not do th or t, they will do s. So for traditional Ashkenazim, they actually have three different letters that all make the s sound, which is sin, samech, and sav, which is tav when it has no dagesh. So interesting there. I like saying th, but in modern Hebrew, most people say t unless you go to like a religious Ashkenazi school and they're going to say sa. So anyways, that is a quick overview of the alphabet. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next lesson. Thank you. Bye-bye.